Namaste. Today I want to bring an interesting interview conversation with you with a very important person. I'm also very personally grateful to him. Sitting with me is Guru Dev Yogi Amrit Desai, and we are in Florida in his ashram. I'm here for a yoga and Ayurveda treatment. He teaches yoga, Vedanta, and Ayurveda, the experiential side, the yoga side, the philosophical side, the Vedanta side, and the medical and biological treatment effects of it through Ayurveda, all of this combined. And I've benefited a lot for many years. I've come here many times, and I've wanted to come back, reconnect. It's wonderful to see you.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Yeah?
It's so nice to have you back
Yeah,
here.
I feel at home. This is nice. I feel really at home, and I wanted to explain to my viewers that this is an extraordinary life journey that Yogi Amrit Desai has had, not well known to the general public, the youth, because he's the pioneer who brought yoga to America. You may say he's the founding father of Yoga in America movement. And many of the people who are practicing are so young. Say anyone who's under 40 or 45 wasn't there when these founding things were happening. So it's when the pioneering work was being done in the 60s. So it's important with a living legend to bring some of these facts back, and that's what I would like to do. And I wanted to sort of tell the audience about the 60s when you came.
Right.
I equate it to, there's a forest that has to be cleared up so you can do some agriculture.
Right.
Before you can do farming and grow some gardens and nice flowers, you got to clean the weeds, get rid of all the stuff there, and maybe there's some snakes there, and there's some, all kinds of things that are going to bite you. So you have to be a fighter, you have to be a pioneer, you have to be resilient, you have to really clear the ground. And once it's cleared, then a lot of people can come and say, oh, it's so easy, we can also set up yoga center.
That's beautiful analogy.
So you did the hard work. And therefore, I'm particularly appreciative of people who are breaking new ground, and you did that in the 1960s. So tell us how that felt. What were some of the things that happened then?
Right. When I first came to America, there was hardly any yoga anywhere. Even if you talk about yoga, people think, one time I was talking about yoga and they thought I was talking about yogurt and said, I love yogurt. I said, no, I'm talking about yoga. And in those days, people were so afraid to even tell somebody that they are going to yoga class. So
Some taboo.
that was, yes, because they thought, it's almost like going to a psychiatrist because you are sick. So that's how it was perceived. So it wasn't easy for me to start yoga and to take it to the level where it went, because what I taught was so understandable, acceptable, and practical. But I brought the ancient teachings in the language that they could understand and practice. So when I started teaching yoga, and I first came to America on February 5th, 1960, there was hardly any yoga in America.
So that's 56 years ago.
Right.
My God. Okay. Wonderful.
And that was after, the first was Swami Vivekananda, who came to America, brought the most ancient teachings and received very well all over America. And after that, Paramahansa Yogananda came. And after he left his body in 1952, I came 8 years after. And these masters, they brought the ancient teachings of India, but I was the first one to bring Hatha Yoga. And there were other teachers who had brought Hatha Yoga, but unique quality was I came from the lineage of Lord Lakulish as trained by my guru, Swami Kripalavananda. So I was bringing something so unique and so authentic yoga that was missing, and even missing even today. So that is why what I taught became very well received, and very popular, so much so that when I first came, I was staying at the International House of Philadelphia. And they had an international festival ball for all the international students to bring their country's message. So I was the one to represent India. So I played flute, and I demonstrated yoga, and I gave a talk on yoga at the festival ball. And there were many newspaper people there as well. So that just exploded.
And we're talking about half a century ago.
Right.
Half a century ago, early 60s. Yeah.
Right.
Fascinating.
And so I was invited on many radio shows, television shows, and newspaper interviews all over.
Big novelty.
Big novelty for them.
Sudden, exotic, interesting from India, teaching us something new.
That's why they were all so fascinated
Yeah.
by what I said and what I demonstrated. So my classes started growing very quickly. And what I taught was also so practical, application of yoga. So so I went to college, by the way, when I first came. I went to Philadelphia College of Art, and I became a very famous artist. And I had many, many awards, and including my show was, I was shown at the Philadelphia Museum of Art as well, which was a great credibility. So even then, I was doing art and yoga both simultaneously, teaching yoga while I was going to college in 1960 on evenings as well as on weekends. But in 1966, I gave up everything and I started teaching full-time yoga. By that time, from 1966 to 1970, it grew so big that I had 150 yoga classes taught in all over Philadelphia, New Jersey.
Every week.
Every week, 150
So
yoga classes.
150 yoga classes per week
Per week, yes.
in the Philadelphia area.
Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware.
So that's the demand within a few years.
Within 66 to 70.
Yes.
And I had trained 50 yoga teachers. There was no yoga teachers, hardly. There were
Now,
few.
if I'm correct, tell me if this is correct. You were the first one to start training Americans to become yoga teachers and certifying yoga, having a proper formal teacher training academy.
Yes. This wasn't there before that.
There were some random, somebody would learn here, there, go to India, learn from a teacher. But a formal, systematic, institutionalized yoga training started by you, of course, is what it took to take off. For the yoga movement to take off, you needed a supply of teachers.
Yes.
And that's what you did.
That is perhaps the first original organization that initiated yoga teacher training in America. Yes.
Excellent. That's a big thing. So then you started the Kripalu from there, the Kripalu Center in Somni Town, Pennsylvania.
No, that is Kripalu Yoga Center in Somni Town, Pennsylvania, because that was about 30 miles from Philadelphia, and it was like 50 acres of land and several buildings. So I wanted to provide this training because I saw people who came to my yoga classes, they came once a week. But I saw that yoga has a tremendous potential, so I wanted to teach more in depth. So I had an ashram where people came from my yoga classes to study more in depth. And
They lived there.
To live there and study.
So now you went to the second stage. First stage, your certification of teachers. Second stage, residential program.
Yes.
So now they have to come and live like in the traditional ashram style.
Yes.
The whole lifestyle.
Exactly.
The whole lifestyle, you change them, you make them vegetarian, they get up in the morning, they have to, from morning till night, the yogic lifestyle.
Exactly. They would wake up every morning, 4 o'clock. Men and women will sit separately, brahmacharya practice, no television, no telephone. And
so you were really bringing the the classical, the traditional Indian lifestyle of yoga, not just asanas and all, but the whole lifestyle of yoga, and starting an ashram where people come and live there to learn this from you.
Right. It started in 1970.
Good.
When there were hardly any established yoga centers for in-depth study for yoga teachers and yoga practitioners. So, and then within a very short time, the residential program grew. Almost 55 to 60 people were living in the ashram.
At any time.
At any time. No, they lived there permanently.
Permanently.
And they were trained to teach the yoga and the related health-related subjects to the people who came there and so it became program center.
So basically, you had 50 people involved in training other yoga teachers.
Yes, and train also. It was also Samni Town became a program center, so we were offering many different kinds of programs, spiritual kind of health-related programs. So they became the staff teachers.
Actually, you are pre-Deepak Chopra, if I may say so, because he came much later. But in terms of physical and yoga and the spiritual dimension, connecting all these, living in an ashram, having a 24/7 lifestyle, this is pioneering work.
Yes.
This is pioneering. So then you started Rajbhumi, another center in Rajbhumi, Pennsylvania.
No, that center originally was in Summit Station, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
About 60 miles from the Sumner Town, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And it was much bigger because more and more people wanted to come be in the residential in-depth study program.
Right.
So that also, then that ashram was going in Sumner Town, then new ashram, we had about 150 resident in-depth study program participants. So they left everything to have...
150 at a time.
No, not at a time. Permanent
150
residents.
were the permanent people conducting things.
Right. They were studying in depth as well as they were the teachers for the program center that was offering holistic health program, massage therapist program, yoga teacher training program.
So someone could actually become a certified Ayurvedic massage therapist. Someone could become a certified yoga teacher. Someone could become
somebody
meditation.
can become a holistic health counselor.
Yeah.
And we were also offering master's degree program
Right.
at Summit Station, Pennsylvania, which then, when I moved to Massachusetts,
Right.
I brought all that staff to
Massachusetts.
because that was much bigger property.
And today that is one of the large Hindu temples.
Right.
That property which was yours, when you moved to the next place, a Hindu temple, Vaishnav temple.
Vaishnav Center.
That's why a large
They
Vaishnav.
bought it from me.
They bought it from you.
Yes.
Okay.
So then it became a Vrajbhumi. Right now, that is one of the largest center for Vaishnavas in the America.
Sure. And then your center in Massachusetts, which is all of these were called Kripalu after your
My Guru Dev's
guru.
name.
So Kripalu, I've been to the Kripalu Center in Massachusetts. Huge, hundreds of acres.
Right.
I don't know how many hundred acres.
It is 350 acre of property.
And number of rooms is very large.
It has one big building and other two buildings. So big building has 4 stories. Each story is 1 acre. Total is 170,000 square feet of building. So there I brought almost 150 staff from Summit Station, and then within 2 months I had 350 full-time resident volunteer staff that lived in that building, and we could accommodate another 300 guests.
So imagine you have an institution with 350 people on the staff who are working, most of them volunteers, and their job is to run the whole place. So it's an enterprise with 350 people living there, offering various kinds of programs, courses, whatever to various people around. Excellent. And so then you moved from the Kripalu Center to Florida.
Right now
We are in Florida, where some very innovative. This is like, I think of it like the R&D shop, where there is this scientist. He's coming up with all these new things, and I see you in that way. So this has been a big journey. Before we move on, I want to say that Yogi Amrit Desai has been very close to it in the earlier years with BKS Iyengar. I've seen a lot of your pictures in 1970 with BKS Iyengar. Later on with well, also in the World Parliament where they gave you an award, a special award which was given to only a few people in the 1980s. And then the Prime Minister, one of the Prime Ministers nominated you for the Padam Vibhushan.
Right. It was late Prime Minister Chandrasekhar.
Chandrasekhar nominated him for that. So he's been well recognized in that era. In that era, the people of that generation really know you very well. I mean, those people have a huge regard. It's just that today's generation, which is my target, might not know these things, and they need to know.
Right.
They need to know these things. So the Yogi Amrit Desai has been written about in USA Today, New York Times, Smithsonian publication, all sorts of things. And you trained some thousands of teachers during these years, probably more than anyone else, or one of the largest teacher training persons.
Yeah, because I started teacher training program, perhaps the first one in America, and I had 150 yoga teachers trained. I'm talking about starting in 1965 to 1970, and then everywhere, every ashram that I have had, there was teacher training program. From Sumney Town teacher training program to Summit Station Yoga Center teacher training program to Kripalu Center teacher training program. Now in Amrit Yoga Institute in Florida teacher training program. So we have trained more than 8 to 10,000 yoga teachers teaching in 40 countries around the world.
So there's 8 to 10,000 yoga teachers in the US, Canada, various Western countries and various countries around the world. You have certified them, trained them, your method, and they are running their practices, they are running their yoga centers.
Yes.
So you actually created a huge franchise.
Yes.
A huge franchise where everybody's independent, of course, and they're doing whatever their own thing, but you've supplied them with the know-how.
Right.
And
the most unique part of this is our quality of teacher training is so unique that many teachers from different traditions of yoga, they come here to add this dimension on top of their own teacher training qualification.
So now, as one of the pioneers of yoga, I also, by the way, interviewed BKS Iyengar on his 90th birthday in Pune.
Really?
Way back, several years ago. I met Swami Satchitanand, did not get to interview him. Now, I think you were a pioneer. BKS Iyengar trained a lot of people. Who else trained Satchitanand? Swami Satchitanand trained 3 people. Are these the 3 main people who created the yoga industry in the United States? Can we say, is that a safe thing to say?
Yes.
That, Prabhupada brought bhakti.
Right.
Maharishi brought meditation.
Right, and I was the original one who brought Hatha Yoga to the West.
So you brought Hatha Yoga to the West. BKS Iyengar came later?
He came later.
And Swami Satchitanand?
Yes, came later.
So,
and there might be some other yogis that I do not know.
But not as large.
But the main thing is I reached out to the largest number of people, and the yoga center that I started became the largest in the world. And it was one of the largest centers in 70s when I had 150 yoga classes.
Yeah. So this pioneering work cannot be underestimated when you write the history of American yoga. Because people are writing things and they are skipping, bypassing, sidetracking major persons and major events for their own agendas. And my job is to make sure that this is not forgotten. The legacy that you have created for the whole American yoga industry, if you call it an industry, and the yoga practitioners owe you a lot because you were the pioneer who brought this. And then a couple of other Hindu gurus, major persons from India also came, BKS Iyengar and Swami Satchitanand.
Oh, they have made a definitely contribution.
And they made a huge contribution. And then came Maharishi with meditation.
Right.
Not the Hatha Yoga, not the yoga part, but the meditation. And Prabhupada with the bhakti.
Right.
And various others came for many things. But I think as far as the yoga itself is concerned, you brought the original force into it.
Right.
And this is what I wanted to make sure is established. So in the next segment, what I'd like to do is talk about the actual practice itself that you have developed and how it is unique.
Right.
Because we talked about the history, so it's not just that you were first and you were the largest and made a huge impact, but also in terms of the actual practice, the substance and content of the practice, you brought in lots of innovation.
Right.
So I want to talk about that.
Yes, so when I was teaching yoga in the beginning, even when I was known all over the world, and I was even given the doctorate of yoga by Jagadguru Shankaracharya,
Yes.
I did not know what yoga's yogic depth yet. So I had an awakening in 1970. And that awakening, I was taken to a whole new dimension from where I saw yoga practice to be completely different. So when I had read Patanjali Yoga Sutra and Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, before that, I just read Bhagavad Gita as usual. But after awakening, when I read Patanjali Yoga Sutras and Bhagavad Gita, I read like I had never read them before, because I saw completely new teachings that were subtler than what I was able to see before the awakening. So out of that, I developed a whole new approach called Kripalu Yoga and now Amrit Yoga or I Am Yoga. So I call it I Am Yoga because it is exactly what Patanjali says. So most people do not know. Today, most yoga centers, they teach Hatha Yoga and then Patanjali Yoga Sutra philosophy, separate class of a philosophy. And but to
And
me,
they're disconnected.
they're disconnected.
One is mental level, one is physical.
But they're not brought together
yeah.
like Patanjali meant. So Patanjali's book is often translated as philosophy of yoga. Actually, it is the
manual.
It is the manual
for
of yoga.
The manual for practice.
Right. And he says that yoga means witnessing the modifications of mind. And so he did not put any yoga postures in his book because then yoga can be practiced while you are cooking, while you are shopping, while you are driving. You can be in a meditative witnessing presence.
So you could be a yogi and you're supposed to be a yogi doing all kinds of things.
Right,
Not just sitting on the mat.
Right.
But whatever you're doing,
Right.
you bring the yoga posture with you.
And then he also says in the later part, Ashtanga Yoga he mentions. So what he's saying is Ashtanga Yoga cannot be practiced if it is not combined with meditation from the very beginning.
Because meditation and asana and pranayam and yam and niyam, they're all the different angas, the different parts, the different limbs.
They are the limbs of one body called yoga.
Yes.
That's why he calls it 8 limbs of yoga.
Yes, not 8 levels.
Not 8 steps.
No, or 8 steps. Yes.
Right.
It's not a chronological thing.
Exactly. Therefore, the yoga that I created, I call it meditation in motion, because that's what Patanjali says. So it became so popular.
So I want to say something anecdotal. The first time I ever heard this principle was from you, and I want to say that.
Yes.
This is like over a decade ago. In one of your classes, which I was taking right here, you mentioned that the 8 parts or limbs of yoga have to be practiced simultaneously. That in the posture is also the breathing, is also this, is also the pratyahar. So tell us about it, because I think this is very fascinating that it's not that, okay, today the class will be on asana and tomorrow it will be on this one and then on that one. It is not sequential.
Right.
So because like this morning when we did yoga here, the style of doing is very different than in many places. So
Right.
please tell us how that is so.
Right, because Patanjali calls his yoga 8-limbed yoga. 8-limbed yoga.
Right.
Body has limbs, tree has limbs, and all the limbs are connected with energy. So you cannot practice just one limb and isolate it from all other limbs.
And what you are saying is that none of them can be separate from any other.
No.
They have to be together.
Right.
This
right.
is an integral unity of yoga.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can practice yamas and niyamas.
Right.
Let's say you are practicing non-violence,
Right.
and you're practicing brahmacharya. And then if you fail, if it is not practiced with witnessing the modifications of mind, if you fail, you will feel guilty. You will say, I missed it, I hate it, I'm wrong, I should not have done this, or my guru is right, I'm lost. So because they practice yamas and niyamas from the mind and ego, when they fail, they get upset. That means they are violent to themselves by saying, I am wrong, I missed it. So witnessing modifications of mind should be practiced even with yamas and niyamas.
Right.
Otherwise, people, when they fail in their practice, they reject themselves, they feel guilty, they think I am sin, so on.
Now, one of the most profound, and Yogi Amrit Desai's teaching is not sort of theory lectures, but experiential. So from the get-go, you sit and you actually do things. He'll teach you how to chant the Om with a certain way, how to sit your posture, breathing, all of that. So everything is experiential, and this is what I like about it. I mean, I have had many teachers and gone to a lot of classes. I like the ones who are experiential rather than the ones who are just giving you a theoretical lecture, because I've read enough and I don't need to go and listen to some sermon or a discourse on something, I really want to experience it for myself.
Right.
Otherwise, it is somebody else's experience, and
Right.
I really want to feel it myself. That's what I like about what you said.
This is what I say. What is the meaning of the word yoga, and what is the purpose of practice of yoga? The meaning of the word yoga is integration, unification of Atman with Paramatman, individual soul with cosmic soul. And that's the purpose. And that is the purpose, and that's the meaning of the word yoga. So what I have done is, when people are practicing yoga, they begin with integrative intention. So whenever the mind comes in and says, I am wrong, I'm not doing good enough, I'm too stiff, that is called self-concepts. They are practicing ego mind internally, and externally they are practicing yoga postures. And there is conflict going on. What you are doing and what you are thinking are not in harmony. So this yoga, when it is followed through the medium of meditation, what you are thinking, what you are feeling, and what you are doing moves in one direction as a unit.
So one of the most interesting things I heard when I've been in your classes is the way you explain prana and the importance of prana, and how with the prana you can break down some of these locked up energies. Right. So can you explain a little bit on the importance of prana and in your teaching?
Yes, because the purpose of yoga is to really, I now call it I am yoga, the yoga that I teach. Integrative Amrit method, I am yoga. The purpose of it is how to return back to the source that I am,
yes.
The soul being that I am.
Yes.
So what is in the way is your karmic memories of reactively processed past. And that is what lives in your memories. So when you are interacting with life situations and relationships, you are acting through the reactive perceptions. And that is living in you as an energy block that comes out as emotional block.
It's physically inside us.
It is physically installed, because like if I'm angry, fearful, frustrated about my performance of yoga or my interactions with my family life, work life, or social life, all those things, those reactions in the mind get replicated in the subconscious energy field of the body.
Is that sanskar?
That is sanskar, yes.
So the sanskar we are creating by all the things we're doing,
Right.
And so we're carrying this baggage of a huge amount of sanskar.
In the form of what you call the shield or persona, the mask.
Yes, so it's a kind of, you might say, we are programmed.
We are programmed.
So this programming is driving us.
Right. So that means most people do not know who they are.
Right.
They are disconnected from I am, and identified with their self-image that they are not.
Right.
So that self-image lives in separation from the self within in the form of karmic, unresolved impressions and reactively processed memories.
Right.
And so when they identify with it, they see the problems where there is none. Because the reactive perceiver has no eyes to see what is as is.
Right.
So in Christian tradition, it is said that, Christ one time says, if you have eyes, see, if you have ears, hear. He wasn't talking to blind and deaf people. And yet he saw that these people have lost connection with reality because they see through the medium of their reactive perceptions of the past. That is what Bhagavad Gita says. To see what you, if you trust me, I will give you everything.
So basically, it's to deprogram.
Deprogram. Yes.
It's to deal with these sanskars. So how do you, in your method, how do you approach pran in such a way as to address this issue?
See, the pran.
So you've explained the problem. So how do we solve it?
Right. So this is a very important part that hasn't been properly explained.
Right.
So this is the very unique part that I have brought to explain some of the secrets of scriptural teachings of Tantra Yoga. So when the soul enters the body through the medium of breath, it remains as I am, divine potential. But breath manifests in the body.
In our terms, you would call it Jivatma.
Jivatma.
Would you say Jivatma?
Jivatman, yes.
When the person is born, is that so?
Yes.
That is when
the Jivatman enters.
Yes.
The Jiva soul, individual soul, is inborn as a potential, but manifests in the body through the polarity of autonomic nervous system.
Okay.
So when the child is born, this autonomic nervous system, we are born with animal body, human mind, and a divine potential. So we have animal body which has similar appetites, biological appetites, survival instinct as animals. But we are born with I am, which is so unique. So this I am is superimposed as soon as the child gets right age 2 or 3. It superimposes I am my thoughts, I am my likes, and I am my dislikes. That gets superimposed over sympathetic nervous system, which was before the I am was guided by the consciousness that I am. So once I am identified with who I am not, my thoughts, my reactions, my reactive perceptions, the sympathetic nervous system has thought forms, and parasympathetic just converts the thought forms into physical chemistry. Toxic, if you have toxic thoughts, it creates toxic chemistry in the body that gets built into energetic blocks in the body. So the practice of yoga is meditation. So you can see these blocks coming through your mind, in your body, and how to dismantle that. That is why Patanjali say yoga means witnessing modifications of mind. So if you cannot get rid of it from your emotions, from your reactive thoughts, and from the body, you are not doing real yoga to return back to the I am that I am.
So another concept which I liked a lot was posture of consciousness. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So,
because you make us create the tension and back off and let go, and then so tell us the posture of first creating the tension and then letting go,
right,
and how this works in every asana. So you are doing this in the physical asana. You are doing so when you are doing the physical aspect also. You are practicing this consciousness.
Yes. So consciousness manifests internally and externally. So externally it manifests through the body and through the mind, and internally it manifests through the autonomic nervous system in our body. So that autonomic nervous system is the divine dance of Shiva and Shakti in our body. But when we identify with ego mind, the dance is between ego mind and energy. So that is the conflict. So this practice of I am yoga is how to withdraw the pratyahara and witness of the reactive perceptions that arise in the mind while you're practicing yoga.
So the pratyahar is not just physically blocking off your eyes and all that, but you're withdrawing the reactivity.
Right.
You're withdrawing the reactivity because that reactivity is reinforcing in keeping this whole, creating new sanskars also.
Right. Reactivity means you are reinforcing your past
Right.
over the present and moving further and further away from the source of love, peace, and harmony that is I am within.
So the withdrawal doesn't mean you're no longer doing action, but you're
No,
witnessing.
withdrawing from the past,
Withdrawing from the
conditioned
past.
karma.
So you are a witness, you're detached, but the action continues.
The action is now guided by the higher power,
Right.
the consciousness,
Right.
rather than ego mind superimposing sympathetic nervous system in the body.
So what I found is, until I attended your class, this was long ago, and you might not remember that you were actually teaching that then, and I was learning that then. I had been taught and practiced this detachment, nothing to do with yoga, but as a purely meditation exercise,
Right.
like Raman Maharshi's witnessing method. Raman Maharshi has this witnessing method, also witnessing
Yes.
and so on.
Exactly.
And Adi Shankar wrote a short piece, one of his shortest pieces, explaining this witness method.
Exactly,
Also.
exactly.
So you did something different, which is to put it into your asana practice.
Right, right.
So you put this into the asana practice. So now we are sitting there, we're actually doing some asana, we're reaching a certain point of tension. We don't want to go too much, it cause pain. We don't want to go too little, we want to go just right. And then we have to do something to get that idea of letting go.
So every spiritual practice
Yeah.
is about detachment
Yes.
from the possessions. So actually, that is why every religious tradition has something of renunciation of the monk and swamis and
Right.
so actually that renunciation is not complete, because what I see, what Patanjali says, renunciation from all the memories of the past, which is your karma body. So only when you witness, right, on the practice, during the practice of yoga, what you are renouncing is all the karmic impressions of good and bad, success and failure, for me and against me, that is built into our memory center. That's a real renunciation that you practice through the meditation.
So when a person is doing, if he has a muscle and he's doing something to create attention,
Right.
so tell us, how do I use that moment as an
Right.
opportunity
Right, right.
to do what you want?
So that is why this I am yoga practice
Right.
is built into two parts, making it happen and letting it happen.
Please explain that, because that I think is
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah.
So because making it happen means you are a performer of the postures.
So-
because you have a physical body.
So if at the stage of Hatha Yoga, I'm making it happen. I'm conscious, I'm doing this posture.
Right.
I'm reaching a certain point. Okay.
Right. So when you're making it happen, you want to go to letting it happen.
Okay.
So making it happen usually happens through the medium of the ego mind, doing postures.
Willpower.
Willpower.
Discipline.
Right. Discipline. But that will not prepare you to go into surrender of
Right.
letting it happen.
Right.
So the making it happen is performed with integrative intention. So you are doing it to let go of the internal conflicts and hesitations, doubt, self-judgment, comparison, competition, all that happens in the mind while you are making it happen.
So you have some intentions so that when you're making it happen, you are making it happen for a certain cause.
Cause.
And then what do you do when you are
So
making
when you live, making it happen part is accompanied by integrative intention.
Yes.
You are moving towards the surrender. And then second half of the posture is totally letting go.
Letting it happen.
Letting it happen. That means go back to the energy of prana. So most people do not know that surrender is to be practiced in order to return back to I am that I am.
So when Krishna says, do the action, surrender the results, and don't be the doer, actually you are showing this in Hatha Yoga.
Hatha Yoga, I have built it into the practice.
So this idea is not just Karma Yoga in the sense of when I go and do some seva, I don't give them my name, I do it anonymously. That's just one way of doing it. But what you are saying is that when you're sitting on the mat doing your Hatha Yoga, you're actually practicing that same thing in the sense of, am I the doer or not of this particular posture?
Right. So what you are doing is you're cultivating connection to consciousness through the medium of the yoga postures and pranayama. So that is the whole purpose of Patanjali. That is why he's saying meditation is the only way you can enter into the integrated dimension that yoga is.
So when you are doing an asana, actually that asana is a microcosm of the world of actions.
Right. Exactly.
So in that asana is the actor, the doer, and then you have to surrender this actor, the doer, so he's not feeling like I have done the action.
Right.
So in that asana, you are practicing the dual posture, the posture of making it happen and the posture of letting it happen.
Right.
So when you achieve letting it happen, then the posture is happening without being the doer.
Right.
Yeah, and then you can take this into your world of actions.
That's a purpose.
That's the purpose.
So
So I saw a movie that you showed us long ago of your guru Kripalu. He was doing some action. He was doing some asanas where it was so fluid and so spontaneous that clearly there was no intention, no plan, no will, no discipline, no ego involved in doing it. Can you explain that?
Yes, this is called Tantra Yoga,
Okay.
Siddha Yoga, Kundalini Yoga. These are the different names of the same yoga. So this tradition is about this is the most unique part that I teach, and that makes people so free from all the conflicts they had within them. And therefore, when they go home after teacher training, their relationship with their parents, they had never talked for 15 years, and all of a sudden they feel so open. With their children, with their ex-wife, with their husband, with their family, opens up. Why? Because they learn how to let go of the reactive perceiver that had preconceived ideas about people, places, and things, about their parents who abused me, who violated me, because these are all false impressions, reactively processed in your memory body. So you're learning how to go beyond it through meditation in motion. As a result, you are letting go you are renouncing not just the external possessions, but the past that is destroying your present and the soul connection. So they learn how to be in the present moment so they can be in connection with reality.
So learning to be in the present moment without the doership is part of what I have to do in my asana practice.
Exactly.
In the physical world, of practice, I have to do that.
And that is what Patanjali says in his first sutra. He says, now the discipline of yoga. So most people interpret it as, now let us start the discipline of yoga. Patanjali never uses any word at that superficial level. When he says now the discipline of yoga, means discipline of yoga can only happen in the present moment, now. That's the meaning.
So Hatha Yoga is actually far more profound than physical exercise. That's what it tells us.
That's what
Because
he says.
Hatha Yoga is the starting point where you experience the now in a different way, and the sense of doer, not doer in a different way.
Right.
And then you can move it further. That's the way you're combining all the Ashtanga limbs together.
So when ego mind is practicing yoga, so ego mind, while it is practicing, internally it says, I feel like this is too difficult a posture. I hate this. I don't like this teacher. Oh, so-and-so is doing better than me. That means mind is doing something else while body is doing so-called Hatha Yoga postures. That is called body-mind conflict. that means the conflict is practiced by ego mind. So I call it ego posture. It is so completely different than yoga posture. So how to bring mind in tune with the body. So I teach how to practice pranayam to disengage from the mind and reconnect with the prana, the wisdom of the body. How to use pratyahara to withdraw from the reactive perceptions that arise in my mind and bring it into responsive interaction with who or what is present, and then bring witnessing presence. So I don't believe anything that my mind says, and then my mind progressively becomes calm. So while I'm doing yoga postures, I'm dropping into the deeper and subtle levels of relaxation, and that means I'm moving deeper and subtle levels of integration experience that yoga is. So there is experience of yoga combined with the practice of yoga. In popular practice, there is a practice of yoga, but there is conflict. Internally, there is a conflict going on.
In one sense, they are making your body better, but they're making you worse in terms of your sanskars.
Right.
Ego.
Right,
Building up more ego.
Right.
And so with all this business about yoga competition, so I have to win the silver medal or gold medal, and I have to be jealous of this guy, beat him up and all that. That competitiveness in yoga is counterproductive.
Completely counterproductive.
So this whole International Federation of Yoga competition that they've set up in the US, I think is actually causing harm because this is anti-yoga.
It is anti-yoga, but what I say is, if it is for the kids who can only be interested in yoga, with brought in as a play or competition, that's fine for introduction, but not for adults.
Not for
People who want to practice
Yes.
authentic yoga.
Yes.
So I don't condone, but
if they turn it into an Olympic sport, then
Yeah.
people will not do the real yoga.
Right, right.
They'll just go for the medals,
Right.
and turn it into ego competition.
So that is why even the yoga that I teach is very different than the popular approach to the practice of yoga.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So the next segment, which I would like to do, I want to actually discuss what has happened to yoga in America in terms of going in all these different directions, and what do you think of it? What do you think of yoga being disconnected from the Indian roots? What is your view on it? Because there's a lot of people who want to de-spiritualize what's called the YMCA yoga, because some U.S. Courts and school systems said you cannot teach this because it's religious. So they said, okay, we can't do Om. Those kind of things, that controversies have happened. So I want to talk to you about that because I'm concerned about the loss of authenticity when we try to make those compromises just to be politically correct or socially correct and so on. So that'll be our next segment. So what I'd like to discuss is, since you brought yoga to this country, a lot has happened to yoga that you can't control, no one person can control, because it takes a life of its own. You teach teachers, and then they do whatever they do. Other teachers come, many forces come, different ideologies come. So since the time you brought the real Indian yoga here, yoga has also transformed. So like I've noticed the studio in my house, near my house in Princeton, they stopped saying Om. They just don't want to, because some people think it's
religion,
some non-Hindu, non-Judeo-Christian, and they're bothered. Some places they have Christian yoga, they put some angels there, and so they're saying that we don't want these deities anymore. And so one yoga center, they removed all the deities and they put something else. So there's politics of yoga. And then there's also some people who complain that teaching yoga in the school system violates the separation of church and state, because you're sneaking in an Eastern religion in the back door. You're quietly bringing this in. So some people got court orders. Even they got court orders against transcendental meditation, that this is not secular. It's a mantra, is a kind of a very weird thing that you guys are bringing. So I'll tell you the tension points, and then you tell me what you think of them. So Om and mantra is a tension point for some people. Deity is a tension point. Kundalini experience is a tension point, because such an experience is not available and not taught in the Abrahamic religions, and it would have an effect on the authority of the church institution, because they're saying that the only way to salvation is through us as an institution, and you are saying that you can do it yourself.
Right.
So it's like somebody saying you have to buy this product from this one centralized place, and we got many branch offices.
Right.
We got many retail outlets. You can go to our retail center
Right.
and buy the hamburger from any McDonald's, but you have to buy it from McDonald's. One paradigm says that, and then you are saying that look, every one of you is self-sufficient because you're originally divine. You're
Right.
Satchitanand. So this idea that you can have a Kundalini experience and these sort of things is threatening to some people with big institutions.
Right.
So this has started some controversies.
Right. Right.
So I wanted to discuss what your thoughts are. That what do you think of people who say, I don't want to chant mantra, or I don't like this deity, I don't want to, or I don't believe in, I can't accept Kundalini because having the divine with me is kind of like the devil talking. It's devil.
Right.
It is evil talk. People
Right.
say that.
Yeah.
People say that.
Right. Right.
Okay, so
And
you must have come across this kind of.
I have come across, when I came first in the early days, there were people who just could not understand because for them everything was so unfamiliar. The mystical dimension of yoga and the supernatural dimension of psychic field, they were not aware of. So they thought this is devil or something wrong is happening. So what I say is yoga actually from India, it comes from what is called Sanatan Dharma, eternal truth. So I have built these yoga teachings in such a way that each step is taken as a practice with the core principles and authentic teachings of yoga that reveals the God that is already within them. And so what is God? God and love are the experience of integration and oneness, that it leads to the oneness. So people go to that experience in my class, and then they say, and then they go to, that helps them to just get rid of their past conditioning, habit patterns that are so rigidly held, concepts about their relationship they had in the past, because they connect to God within them. So they don't have to believe in God to begin with, because they experience oneness that God is, oneness that yoga is, oneness that love is by practice itself. So they are given, so when I teach them how to access God within you and give them all the techniques. And directly they experience, oh my God, I feel like so much freedom from how I used to be, worried, fearful, in conflict with love life, family life, work life, but that was not me. So they begin to see who they really are. So those teachings are teaching them that God is I am within you. Because in Christianity, even it is said, before the Abraham was, I am. And then Christ says, he didn't say I was. So I am teachings that Christ understood from traveling in the East. Many evidence say that he was in India and he learned yoga from the great yogis. And when he brought these teachings, he said in the different words, but people could not understand it. So, but when I had the experience of yoga and I read his teachings, I understand. But the people who practice Christianity, they do not know but the saints who practice real teachings, they could understand.
So the thing is that there's a difference between what Jesus may have experienced and the institutionalized body of doctrine called Christianity. Because the institutionalized body of doctrine called Christianity, written in the New Testament, taught in the church, has a very long lineage of, they have their own parampara and lineage of interpretation.
That is very well said. This is what they are missing, the authentic practitioner who can teach the real teachings of Christ.
Okay,
But then, just a minute.
Yeah.
But then what they did is, there were some saints in the tradition also who knew the real teachings of Christ from the real practice of what Christ taught. But they didn't want to create controversy, or they didn't want to start their own path, so they decided to name them as saints after they were dead.
Yes.
So they do not create controversy.
Yes, this is one of the, if you remember, long back we had a discussion on the living masters versus the dead saints.
Dead saints, yes.
If you remember that.
Yes.
That the tradition of living enlightened masters defeats and undermines. It's like a poison pill for the tradition that says there is no such thing as Satchitanand, because if they were to acknowledge that there is such a condition as living enlightenment, a living enlightened master, then you do not need an institution like a church to give you the truth about some history, because rather than worrying about history, you can experience it right now for yourself.
So that is why yoga that I taught became very popular. And the yoga center that I started became the largest, with 350 full-time resident volunteer staff.
Okay, so now here's the thing.
Because they really saw the real meaning of that they could not find in the religion that they were.
So there's two things. One is a kind of an interpretation of Christ which is sort of Vedic oriented, Vedantic oriented. Sanatana Dharma interpretation of Christ is one idea. The other is the institution of church and formal Christianity, because it's a very institutionalized religion. It is not a do-it-yourself that you do your own things. It's very much church-oriented, and church got a lot of power, a lot of property. They're the richest landowner in the world. They have more preachers than any sales force of a multinational. They have more trillions of dollars wealth than anyone. They have a bigger turnover. So it's the biggest multinational of the world.
Right.
It's the biggest multinational and the oldest.
Right.
It's been older than any of these multinationals.
But now, because the people do not get what they are trying to deliver, therefore, they're like a Kripalu Center that I bought was the Christian seminary for training the priests. But they don't, hardly anybody goes there because they do not get the real teachings of Christ.
But then you look at the Christian right wing in this country. They're politically still very powerful. They might become the president. They might capture the White House. So they're not a trivial thing. We can't imagine that they're gone. I mean, you have examples where they're not doing well and examples where they're doing very well. And there's also a revival of that in Europe. The revival of the Christian fundamentalism is big in France, Germany, England, big. Some of it is a reaction to Islam, so they're coming back to fight the Islam. Some of it is just as a response to too much secularism and too much atheism coming back. So I don't think we can sort of, and besides, whatever may be happening in the Western countries, in India they're really evangelizing and converting poor people on a very big scale. I mean, they are just, it's like devastating in India. So in India, what they're doing is they're going and duping people by saying, this Jesus is your own son of your soil. He was here only, he was yogi only, so you just adopt him. This is a way to dupe people into converting them. And once they are converted, then they are told to distance themselves and attack their Vedic heritage. So attacking one's own heritage is a very violent thing, especially when it's forced upon somebody out of poverty.
Right.
So this business of saying Jesus could also be reinterpreted and accommodated within Sanatana Dharma has this strategy that once we can convince enough Hindus to accept this, we will then go through in various ways to convert large numbers of people, which is what they're doing. So they have Mary wearing a sari, Jesus in a lotus position in the churches, and you see they're saying this Jesus also Rishi, and so Bible is the fifth Veda. The Bible is the fifth Veda. And so now if you're studying Bible, don't worry, it's the fifth Veda only. And there's Jesus in a dhoti. So the Bible is a yagna. So
they use the terminologies of them.
All this is a strategy called inculturation, which is a very official strategy started by the church, to use this Hindu or this Indian, the Sanatana Dharma openness, what I call open architecture, openness, as a way to defeat it. So this openness that you're showing, which is part of the culture, to be very open and allow others, in fact, receive others with open arms, welcome them, they use it to kind of defeat.
Right.
So you see what happened is, when they were fighting the pagans in Europe, they did the same thing. When they were fighting the pagans in Africa and Latin America, they did the same thing. They would go to a village in Latin America and they would say, "You're worshipping your ancestral deities. We have no problem. So you can keep worshipping those ancestral deities, and we are bringing you, food and help and all that, charity. And so let's just bring in Jesus as another deity to sit along with the other deities. And he's just part of the family." And these guys were gullible. They said, "Fine, why not? What's wrong?" So they would bring in Jesus as another deity. Then they would raise the children of these people in their own Christian school, in the church school. And there they teach the children a little bit differently. What they teach the children is, that's for your parents. For the old generation in front of them, you can respect them. But you know what the real truth is, that those are false idols. They are false idols. So when these children grow up, and the parents are now very old, the children are running the show, the parents are old, they're told, just put up with it, but someday you just have to throw these idols away and demolish them and burn them and so on. So it's a 3-generational project to inculturate, get your foot in the door, look like you're a good guest, but then ultimately the guest job is to throw the host out. Throw the host out of his own.
Because they work with missionary approach to teaching.
It's power. It's about power.
Right, and we don't do that.
We don't do that. So we don't even understand what their game is often what their game is. So you see, the thing is that we have one story, one narrative about how to reinterpret Jesus in a Sanatana Dharma way. Okay, that's fine. Then there is how the church has made a codified, very rigid doctrine of do's, don'ts. They have something called Nicene Creed, which is read out in the church all the time, which very clearly says that this is the only way. This is the only way you can reach salvation. All other ways are devil influencing and whatnot. Then you have to be against idolatry. You have to be against these mantras and against practices that are considered pagan. You see, so this business of we accommodate the pagan for a while because we need some good things from him. He's teaching us some great things. He's helping us. We'll put up with that. But someday, when we've digested all of his good knowledge into our own framework, we'll throw him out. And we'll actually denounce him, hit him, accuse him, allege him, and really burn him. Because that business of burning and destroying idols in Europe was a very important practice of Christianity. So this business of destroying the pre-Christian faith rather than cohabiting, living in harmony, is part of the history. So
this is what happened to one of my friends.
Yes.
So Swami Brahmananda. He had a beautiful big ashram in Monroe, New York. And he had some woman disciple, her son. So I don't know what really happened, but her son died. So these people who were in the neighborhood who didn't want him to be there, they took the girl, say, "You sue him for second-degree murder." That's what she did. And then he was in a real trouble because he never did that.
Right.
Neither did she do anything that way. But it could be construed like his advice did that. Her son died. So there are many situations that are being created against in many different ways.
So what they need to get out of the way, what the church needs to get for itself out of the Sanatana Dharma, and what it needs to reject is very clear to them. We should be very clear also. What they want is the pran therapy and pran healing. What they want is this non-dual consciousness idea. These are ideas very powerful for healing all kinds of problems. They want that. They want the asana, they want the yoga, they want the meditation. These are things they want. But notice, I didn't use deity in my list of things they want. Mantra is very dangerous, they say, because mantra brings in the vibration, which brings in the consciousness, links them back to Sanskrit and Vedas and all that, and that's dangerous. And they certainly don't want the living guru. The living guru, sir, is the biggest threat, because even if they burnt all the books and they got rid of all the deities and images, the point is the living guru will bring it back. This is why Sanatana Dharma never got destroyed, because Sanatana Dharma always produced, every generation they produced one living guru after another. So even
That's
if
a most important statement.
so the living guru is the text. This is an important thing. The text is not written down. Text is not something disembodied from you. So the deity is not disembodied from you. The living guru is the deity. The living guru is the text.
And that's precisely what happened to Bapuji.
Yeah.
There are many gurus that came to America and many gurus in India. They have practiced yoga, but Bapuji was one of the rare gurus who had Kundalini awakening, and his body gave birth to hundreds of postures that were never shown by other gurus who were not in the same tradition, like Swami Vivekananda or Paramahansa Yogananda. They were in different tradition. In India, all these traditions are valid.
Yes.
But he was the first guru whose body revealed hundreds of yoga postures.
And he did not read it from a book.
Never came from the book.
So the text,
And
the ultimate truth is encoded in every person.
And that is what happened to me in
Yes.
1970
Yes.
when I had an awakening experience.
Yes.
The yoga postures just were born from direct meditation rather than me having learned. So some of the postures were from my learning. They looked like similar to what I had learned. Some were so completely new. But they were all amazingly miraculous because they were going to the direct target where the energy block was. And the Shakti was designing the particular posture and breathing technique to hit that particular area to dismantle that block. So progressively, I was going deeper and deeper in meditation with each movement and getting more relaxed and more integrated and deeper in oneness.
And this is so ultimately our tradition is empirical, it's experiential. It's not that there's a truth in a text we have to believe. It's like some doctrine that it's not doctrine, it's experiential.
Right.
So this idea of what you experience as truth and what you teach as truth, if it is not acceptable to somebody with a closed mind and a doctrine, rather than us compromising the truth, we have to say this is the truth we have actually experienced and we can teach you to experience the same.
Right.
And then how you reconcile with your own tradition is up to you.
So that is why, even though I did not bring any religious background or a religious master, like when Swami Vivekananda came, he had a guru who was very famous. Yogananda had a guru. I had a guru, but he wasn't that famous at that time. So all the people, they were many Christians and Jews who followed me and wanted to live their life so completely and be resident volunteer staff, 350. That shows that our Sanatana Dharma has such a powerful direct experience of the divine within. And therefore, that is the kind of success I have had.
So it is, I would say it is a tension, you think of it as a tension, it is a tension between the experiential truth, which is self-realized, versus mental story, narrative of a historical event that you have to believe.
Right.
And you have to believe it on face value, and you have to believe it because of the fear. If you don't believe, you're going to go to hell, and there's only one life, and there's no reincarnation. This is your only chance. You better get it right first time, otherwise you've had it. So there's a huge downside if you don't believe, and a huge reward of heaven if you do believe. And you don't have to practice yoga or anything. You just believe in it. And if you believe in it, you're going to be saved, and you stamp your passport ticket. You're out there.
So that is the uniqueness about yoga.
This is the thing. This is the uniqueness.
Right, because you don't have to believe in anything.
Yes.
Because everything is revealed experientially.
But you have to follow a process.
Right.
You have to follow a process, and then it will just come to you, and you then start accepting your own experiences as your truth.
And you let go of self-concepts, fears, and attachments. And as you come in touch with who you really are, that is yoga in connecting back to the soul that I am.
So one other thing in this regard I want to say is, a large part of the success of Sanatana Dharma is the lineage system, the paramparas.
Right.
You are so respectful of your guru and he of his guru and so on. So what do you think is going to happen after you in that regard? Because I will tell you this, J. Krishnamurti, after he's gone, it's vanished. Prabhupada, it's broken into many ISKCONs, some of them fighting. such a great guru. Maharishi, his own people in Iowa, I visited, they are the elders who were actually initiated by Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi,
Yes, yes.
are very loyal to him. Till now, they're all loyal, absolutely loyal to him. They're very genuine, very authentic Westerners. They're all very loyal because they have had the experience with him. But they tell me they're not too sure of whether it will be continued beyond them into the next generation where they never met Maharishi personally. So those who never met Maharishi, didn't get the experience of him, for them it's just a book, and there's a lot of this manipulation that you can put it into Christian centering prayer. There are all these kind of movements. So they themselves are worried that this may get scattered, dismantled, dissolved, and digested into this and that hanky-panky ideologies. So then you look at Swami Satchidanand, no lineage left. You look at Osho, no much left. You look at Paramahansa Yoganand, basically self-realization fellowship teaching certain things, but they have not been able to create a great guru. They're not been able to create another Paramahansa. Or
Right.
somebody. So that's the thing, because the true lineage is through the Shakti path, the master creates another one.
Right.
Then he carries it on. But all the examples I gave, there is no successor of that kind.
Right, right.
They just have book and they can teach and they can play his videos and that sort of thing, but they are not creating anybody like that.
That's
So-
such an important concept
Yes,
you're talking about.
yes.
And that is my intention. And that's why I have started a Acharya level training program,
Okay.
so that people who have Kundalini awakening experience, and we have several people who have the same experience that awakened me. That is what Bapuji took Bapuji to all the level of the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and that is what is being trained. The people are trained, and it is in the process.
So the thing is that it's a very important thing that you're doing, which is to take people who, through your Shakti path, have had the same Kundalini experience. But then they also need to know the traditional texts and the philosophies and the way the tradition has interpreted them, so they don't take this experience running here and there looking for some alternative interpretation,
What a beautiful-
shopping around for like a flea market. What has happened is Vedic culture, Sanatana Dharma, yoga is often has turned into what I would characterize as a flea market. Everybody is sitting there selling whatever he can sell, and if it doesn't sell, next day he'll come back and put something else on the market. And this is not lineage, sir. This is not parampara system. This is not how we survive for thousands of years.
Right.
So we cannot survive with people saying, okay, after me, you guys turn it into a flea market. So it's a very difficult job.
Very difficult.
This is a very, very difficult job
Right.
to leave a parampara behind.
Right.
And that's where I would love to do anything for any guru, any good guru, to help them achieve that. Because I respect our gurus as the highest value we have.
So that is why, all my training is, I tell yoga teachers, I said, this is the program for complete transformation, enlightenment program. But I called it yoga teacher training because I know you will not come for enlightenment program, but yoga teacher training, you will come, and then you will find out what you were really looking for is in this program. So I call it energetic transmission. So energetic transmission is so different than verbal or intellectual
Yes.
or conceptual
That
communication.
is Shakti path. That is Shakti
Right,
path.
Shakti path.
Yes.
So many people have gone through such amazing, powerful experiences that you just read in the book. So that, and then these people, and now I'm training in the people in residence to enter into that training program, so their life will be transformed so completely, so they will be in touch with the inner God, inner Guru directly, and without believing in God or Guru or religion, anything, they will know experientially that they have realized everything that religions are talking about, but then they will know what they don't know. They will know that what they are talking about, they don't know what they are talking about.
So you see,
And that's what happened to me. When I was awakened, I could see everything, the phoniness of the teachings that go on in the form of belief system
Right.
rather than experiential
Right.
approach.
So you see, the thing is that the most important thing you're saying is it's very precious that we should start with the experience, with the higher level of experience, awakening, the Kundalini, various kinds of awakening. But then I would say we need to anchor the person in Shastra, whether it's Bhagavad Gita.
That is what I have. We are starting training in the scriptures.
Right.
Bhagavad Gita,
Yes.
Patanjali Yoga Sutra,
Yes.
Shiva Sutras,
Very
and all
important.
that. Yes.
So important that you see, because I know people who have experience, but they don't know how to interpret it in the context of Shastra, and they go here and there. They get into, they think it's some hallucinogenic experience. People have weird ways of interpreting, and they even bounce around politically based on what will work socially, politically, economically, what might make them more money. Some people are in the market taking this experience for sale. So okay, so I can sell more books and more videos if I don't have this baggage with Sanatana Dharma, if I say that this came out of something else. The Gospel of Tom told me this. So if I make up a story, then I have more clients because
Right.
that's what they want to believe. So I'm actually keeping them within their belief system. It's like an addiction. I'm feeding them, a dosage of this drug because they're intoxicated by their belief system. They're a prisoner of their belief system. Rather than helping them dismantle that belief system, I'm feeding them with another very high potency idea, and that keeps their belief system alive. So actually, we're doing a disservice to people of certain organized religions by buttressing and reinforcing and fortressing their belief system by giving them these ideas. We have to actually help them dismantle that.
Right.
That these belief systems are like Nam Roop. You have to get out of Nam Roop.
Right.
All these mental structures.
Right. That's beautifully said.
These are book-based, wholly book-based. One book which happened to somebody long ago, I should be thinking about what's happening to me now.
Right.
The starting point should not be what happened to somebody long ago. It happened to him, great. It happened, fine. He was a great man. But I have to figure out who am I right now, here and now.
That's what I teach.
That's what you teach, and I have to work on that. And I have to write then one day I'll be able to write my own experiences like that guy wrote his experiences.
Right.
So if I am as much Satchitananda as Jesus Christ was, or anybody else, or whoever, Krishna, anyone, then what's important to me is not the history of that guy's experience. What's important to me is the process to have my own.
That is so beautifully said, and that's my focus.
Good.
That's why I have so much following in the West.
And I'm so happy.
Right.
And you're very authentic, and I just want to make sure that it stays that way. We are very honored that we have somebody like you. We want to make sure that it gets transmitted, passed on to the next generation of followers, and they have the same respect and honor for the tradition.
That's
That
beautiful.
you're one of the first to bring it here, and you've kept the authenticity. You have the deities here. You have Ganesh. You have Shiva. You have goddess. You have all of those, and you do the bhajan. I've heard you with great love and passion, and you teach very authentically. And I just want to make sure that that people understand that this is not just some kind of a culture X versus Y and their own identity at stake. It's not that. There's a certain truth in this. There's a certain experiential truth that can be experienced only if you dismantle the clutches and the fortresses of the scaffolding, you might say, of these old belief systems.
The beautiful word, scaffolding.
Scaffolding. So it is actually yoga versus history obsession. Because an obsession with some history is going to block the yoga.
Right.
As long as I'm sitting
And I teach the same thing because each person is also identifying with his own past history.
Yes, so you
And
see, just
that-
like you want the individual narrative ego to be deconstructed and dismantled,
Exactly. See, you understood.
similarly, there's a very powerful collective narrative in certain cultures that they have
Exactly.
they have put it with fear that you just cannot get out of this, and you go to hell if you don't believe in it, and you go and give us 10% of your wages, and they really put it into fear and got a huge military like organization, and that is a collective ego. So it is, while our teachers are very good in teaching the dissolution of the individual ego,
mind.
our teachers must learn that the Western student who comes has two levels of ego. They also have a very powerful collective ego, which we don't have. Because we're not taught that huge idea of, salvation based on this particular method and bowing to this institution of church. We have a decentralized system in India. You go to the local thing and you don't know about where else anybody believes. What they believe doesn't matter to you. And it is not your job to go convert the next fellow. You have to work on yourself.
That's beautiful.
Right.
Said.
So since we are not into power expansion, this is not a religion of power expansion and
Or
world,
politics.
or politics or world conquest, and we have to take over the whole world and not, Muslim versus Christian fight on who takes over the world. We're not into that. We've never had a history of doing that. So what we are teaching is actually very powerful for anybody to learn. A Christian or a Jew could benefit a lot by learning this. And as a result, giving up the individual ego and the collective ego.
That's beautiful. And that's I have woven into the practice of yoga
Yes.
and lifestyle, both.
Yes.
And that's why I teach Yoga Nidra, but I have given a lot of details about what are the principles of Yoga Nidra that takes you directly into the oneness that God is within you.
Yes.
But when you wake up, how to live those principles in awakening. That's why I've written the whole book on Yoga Nidra. Otherwise, you can have a CD and that's enough.
And I practice your Yoga Nidra quite regularly. And I want to say that I'm very grateful to that. So we conclude this segment, which is, I think, very interesting. And the next segment, the final one, I want to discuss your work. So far, we've talked about how it will help the individual, but how these ideas can be used to solve problems in society, things like recovery from addiction.
Right.
So I want to understand what is your work on that area, because I think people need to know you're doing some amazing work, and addiction is is considered the largest growing illness in the United States. There's a huge percentage, tens of millions of people who are addicted to various things. And I know in New Jersey, there are 2 to 3 deaths per day from overdose.
Wow.
Per day in just one state. And this is going on all over the country. So this is big epidemic. The government realizes it. The medical people realize it. What to do about it? I think the Western medicine hasn't solved the problem of this kind of addiction. They give them other medicines to replace something, and then they get addicted to the other medicine. Or they put some make them into criminals, and then even if they stay there for 10 years, when they come out, they're still doing the same thing. It doesn't solve the problem. I think you've diagnosed it as some kind of an inner problem that has to be dealt with in an inner process. Right. So can you say a little bit on addiction as you see it?
Yes. So our lifestyle is so ego-based that everything that we do to change our life, to improve our life in a social life, married life, work life, we try to improve, but we create stress in the process because it is carried out by the ego, how to become more famous, more recognized, social status, money, power, skills. So ego creates more stress inside to create outside success and achieve more. So that stress causes the addiction. So that means the stress is another name of addiction. Fear is another name of addiction. When you create stress, you create fear also. And the fear-oriented behavior it gets so difficult to live with yourself, with your own mind, with your own fears, with your own loneliness, that it creates that when you take alcohol, drugs, food, or work, you feel a little better, relief from yourself. But that's only temporary solution. So what I teach is how to get rid of stress, which is the main purpose of yoga practice. So I have brought yoga practice, experience of yoga. Sanatana Dharma is relief from self-created suffering, self-created stress that manifests in the form of addiction.
So have you found practice of Yoga Nidra helping addicts?
so amazing results that people who had a desire to commit suicide, those who were depressed, those who were full of anxiety, they had sleep problems, they had heart problems, there are all many kind of problems. When they take this Yoga Nidra, they really discover the inner source of infinite peace and love and harmony. And then that begins to erode the self-concepts and belief systems and karmic impressions. And then as they erode the blockages of the energy, they begin to get in touch with the energy. And then energy connects to consciousness. And they find amazing results.
Also, I think one of the problems is people who are suffering from these things have self-esteem issue, and that's because social stigma. They call the society looks down upon them as if it's a kind of moral problem. Often it is a medical addiction, kind of a like some people are prone to some allergy. So, how to restore self-esteem and confidence?
Self-esteem is I call it reactively processed karmic memories in every interaction you have ever had in love life, family life, work life, or social life. That means that as you have wrong impressions about everything you have experienced in different areas of your life. And that is called karma, karmic memories. What is blocking us is who we really are, is our karmic memories. It comes in the form of very compulsive habit patterns, self-destructive behavior patterns. So this yoga is practiced to dismantle those. Therefore, and that is what creates stress. So when you remove stress, the stress-related habits also fall away automatically, because all that, like alcohol or drugs or a work or a food, is complementary to the stress. So temporarily you feel relief from the stress, but it doesn't solve the stress problem. How is this yoga different? How is Yoga Nidra different? It removes the stress from the core, between the self-image and the self within us, rather than self-image created problems outside of us. So outside problems are called symptoms. The cause is inside. So when 12-step approach, which is called, that is supposed to remove the addiction, so they remove addiction to the alcohol, but the addict, that is self-image, is still continuing to create other addictions.
This is what I wanted to ask you. Someone should write a kind of a yogic version of 12 steps.
I have already started writing.
This is a very big project. I would love to see this happen, and because you see, the demand for this is huge. Demand for this is huge. Now there is this 12 steps book which was written many decades ago, and that is being practiced everywhere. But I see it lacking. They say spirit and they use the word higher power, but I don't think they really have that deep knowledge.
That is what I mean. That's why when the addicts go through the 12 steps, they get rid of the alcohol drinking, but they didn't get rid of the one that created the stress. So the stress now manifests into work or in a sex or in a food, but they don't drink alcohol. But the real thing is higher power. They didn't connect to the higher power within them. That is, again, it starts as a belief.
And they don't have a methodology, they don't have a process.
That's what I have introduced.
They have meetings, and they keep affirming and talking about it, that I believe in this and that.
And it is based on belief,
It is based
not on experience.
Yes, that is the whole thing.
That's a
The
difference.
12-step process is based on belief.
Right.
They make you write down, keep writing that you believe in this and all that, and you agree not to do those things, whatever. But that's not experiential transformation. That's just...
No, but there are some steps that has a very authentic psychological base, but that should take them to go beyond the psychology of the memories of the past, which is called karmic past. Without that, there is no real liberation.
So I think a book of that kind with the proper yogic terminology and vocabulary and principles and exercises, actual experiential exercise, would be a bestseller. I mean, that would be a big hit right now because
That's very
the
important.
demand for that. I mean, the country in the United States is looking for new ideas because they're dumping billions to solve this addiction problem, and the old methods aren't working. They are temporary fixes here and there, but no, they're not able to achieve a transformation.
Right.
So they can solve the problem for a little bit, and then the guy's back into it. That. But one thing I want to ask you is, why are some people more prone to addiction than others, even though if two people consume the same substance? So if two people have 2 glasses of wine, one will get addicted, the other will say, I'm not interested in having any more. One person takes a painkiller and they want more and more. It gives them that high and that feeling. The other one is not wanting to have more.
So the answer is, the person who has pain, when he takes painkiller, it gets rid of pain. Therefore, he wants to repeat it again.
Right.
So stress is also the pain, self-created torture, and hurtful thoughts, feelings, emotions, anger, fear. So when they have that, they use alcohol like a painkiller.
Yeah.
Therefore, they want to use painkiller again and again. That's what causes addiction.
Yeah.
So if you remove stress, addiction will fall away.
Yeah.
So that's why people who have stress, if they drink alcohol, they will get addicted. But one who does not have stress, if they drink alcohol, they won't want it again.
So the hook that keeps the addict stuck to that substance, that thing is stress.
Stress. Yes.
Stress. So when that stress is gone, then he can, once in a while, if he has it, it's not going to affect him.
It's not going to affect him. Same thing with food. Food is because it helps them to hide from the painful experiences, suppress them with the food, and insensitivity it creates.
So even one could apply this principle to those who want to eat a lot of dessert,
Same
who are
thing.
overweight, or people who are smokers.
Same thing.
Same.
These are all addictions to different substances.
Because of some kind of, these cravings are a substitute for some fulfillment that they can't get. Some
Exactly.
kind of so this is a substitute for that.
Right.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I think this, insight from the yogic perspective on this huge addiction epidemic would be so fantastic. I mean,
Yes.
this is
And I have started writing
this
on it.
would be a bestseller. This will be a bestseller.
This was a long time ago, but now I have.
Oh, this is wonderful. Yogic perspective on the 12 steps. The 12 steps is the very famous method all over the United States and most Western countries on the addiction, how to manage addiction. So you've taken the 12 steps, and then you are listing, you're giving the commentary from the yogic point
From
of
each
view.
step.
On each
See,
step.
but I have, this is 30 years ago I wrote this. Now I have a lot more modifications and detailed explanations.
Could I have a copy? Could I have the copy of this?
Yes, you can
Yeah,
have that.
yeah, this is good. So this is a very interesting, and I would love to see if there's more you have written more recently, more detailed, and then exercise after each. You could link it with the Ashtanga Yoga something. Maybe
As
there's
a way to get rid of
yeah.
stress.
So as each step, when they are saying, okay, I agree to do this, then there could be some kind of an exercise to affirm it.
See, it's so practical. That's so beautiful.
Each step
Should
could
have
be
a practical.
what is a yogic exercise for this.
That's a good. Good one,
It
yes.
could be a breathing, it could be visualization, it could be mantra, it could be today you go and do some work, and while doing this work externally you put your attention on it and you think on something else. So you could also teach what should they do when they get this craving, when there's an attack of craving, rather than reaching out to buy this substance. Right now what they're saying is talk to the buddy or talk to somebody who's your sponsor or a supervisor, and they'll help you out. But they can just sort of talk you into try to talk you out of it and don't do, it's bad for you, it'll cause problems. They really don't have a process. They don't even say, okay, sit and breathe 3 times, do this, do that.
Right. See, that's unique that we offer, and yoga nidra, breath work.
So you could
detoxification.
you could
program.
have a particular yoga nidra for addicts.
Right.
You could record a particular yoga nidra for addicts. You could even say, if you're going through this step 1, then this is the tape you visualize, and you give them the tape, And the step 2, this is the tape you visualize, and you're sort of deprogramming, getting rid of what that particular step is trying to achieve.
That's beautiful.
You could have
Look how creative.
you could have 12 videos or 12 audios for each of the 12 steps and other exercises that they do. So when they're going for their Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholic Anonymous meetings, they can actually, those guys, there are thousands of these meetings going on. There are millions of these people there. This kind of a product would be a very important product.
I know.
And this product would ought to get some award because it could probably save lives.
Right.
So I have really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And I'm glad to be here for my own, we are talking about the world, but I want to be here for my own benefit also. And so for the next few days, I'm going to enjoy.
Now, this is detox program,
This is detox.
which we have included in the recovery program.
Fantastic.
For people.
Yeah, I'm a workaholic, and so every once in a while I need to come and workaholic is also an addiction.
Yes.
Some kind of an addiction, I don't know. But I just want to work and produce things that I promise to people and produce this outcome and produce that outcome. And I have a hard time saying, okay, it's too much work, I don't want to do it. So maybe one day, you have to help me figure out, okay, I should just get out of that. But then I should not say that because people will think that I'm getting out of it, which I don't intend to. But maybe I can transform the work in such a way that I don't really, it's not so big a deal.
Right, that is what, see, I live in the midst of all the activities, but I'm not affected by it.
Fantastic.
It is like how to live connected to the witnessing the modifications of mind all along the way. That keeps me out of the trouble I create for myself.
That's real freedom.
Right.
Because it's the freedom from all of those things.
Right.
And with freedom, you can do all the things you want to. And not
Right,
be
because I see that when I see somebody and I don't like it, or something that I don't like it, it is my reactive thoughts. It's not really happening there. I am creating in my own mind. Now, that is what I write about. That's what I teach people. How to be free from yourself. Get out of your own way is the basic teaching.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wonderful to talk to you and have this
you.
conversation. So nice.
You're an amazing presenter and this amazing interview. I'm so happy. Thank you for coming and trying to bring this out to people who do not know how the real yoga works and so on.
And thank you for your 50 to 60 years of huge seva to the world, and very moving, very important, and we should resolve to continue this.
Thank you.
And we'll have more conversations like this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.